Hello, all you cosmic travelers and wanderers. This is Darlene Grift and K. Melissa Waterman, inviting you to join us today in our episode of Expansion from Within, Exploring Multidimensionality.
Let me introduce you to my friend and dear colleague, Darlene Grift. She is a lifetime experiencer, a medical intuitive, and a multidimensional mediator for over 35 years. She's also an author, an artist, a teacher, and a mentor for spiritually invested people.
And K. Melissa Waterman is my friend and colleague, and she's an intuitive mentor, a spiritual teacher. She also works with energy on many levels. In the past, Melissa has worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza on his research team.
Join us on our journey of meeting multidimensional beings, exploring what it means to be human, and expanding our spiritual evolution. Today, we're going to talk about spiritual resilience. I'm interested about what the differences are between resilience in general and spiritual resilience. Let's start with talking about regular, everyday resilience, human resilience. What can we say about that?
Well, I think we all look for some form of resilience. It's that rebound effect that something happens emotionally, physically, and your body or your mental abilities can reset. They come back sometimes in a more whole place, right? But the resilience is about we can bounce back quicker. We are not put under, we're not absorbed into what's happening around us or the events that we create in our life. We have more of that stamina.
Right. Sometimes the people I work with talk about having no resilience to relationships. Like once they've been heartbroken, they don't recover well enough to not bring that heartbreak into the next relationship. And I'm helping them work through that so that they can come cleanly. And with resilience, they're a new being that's not brokenhearted, but is like ready and welcoming and open.
You have to step away from the past. You have to
Right.
put it in its own place. You have to process and allow yourself to go through it so that if whatever that is where you're grieving or you're allowing yourself to be angry about something, but you don't hold on to it, because holding on to it will negate resilience.
In what I want to call human resilience, there's some ability to just own all our own feelings, to be healthy, to be visible, to be angry, to have good boundaries. Right?
Yeah, all of that. I think it's another gift we have as being human, is to have all those capabilities to do that. Because getting stuck in what was and not moving from that, like I notice with some people our age, all they want to talk about is when they were in their teens or they were in college. Like that's their point of reference. It's a place you can get stuck because you're not looking forward. You're not in that place of allowing something new to come in that is just as important or just as vital or just as curiously interesting as when you were a teenager.
Yeah, there's an idea in our culture that there's this beautiful area of life when it's at its fullest between 18 and 45. And then somehow we're downhill after 45. And
Right.
when it's not true. I read a study recently that said that people are most productive between 50 and 75. Let's own that and not be, I don't know what the word is for not being resilient.
Non-resilient?
When we get injured and we're not resilient, we hang on to the past.
We're vulnerable, sensitive, inflexible, rigid, or fragile.
When that happens, if we have a mindset that our younger years are the ones where we are resilient, and then somehow we become fragile with that belief system that we had this great life, we have to keep sticking back to this great life, when in fact there's a great life right here today. Resilience seems key to our overall health as a human. So let's talk about spiritual resilience.
We have to identify the will in resilience. as being human and resilient, you have a stronger will. And will is the desire to achieve. I want to do this. I am going to create this. You have something that leads you forward in the will space. And so spiritual resilience is a piece of that as well, except it's not just you alone with a strong will. It's the spiritual place of you connected to whether that's your higher self or multidimensional beings or your channeler or whatever that is. It's that place of connectedness from the will space, from the heart space to someplace else that's outside of you, that supports you.
And then using our free will and our choice-making abilities to choose into resilience rather than into vulnerability or weakness.
Right.
It's extremely important that we, in some way, tend to our third chakra in our ability to hold on to our core strength, our core knowing.
Spiritual resilience isn't just outside of ourselves. You have to bring it into your physical body because we're here. We reside in this physical form. That connectedness of the physical form, if you are spiritually resilient, so if you are looking forward to that, if you're moving into more spiritual resilience, what goes along with that is your vibration increases. And so when your vibration increases, this body has to be able to hold on to it.
Right. That's exactly right. And so it's super important that we're not breaking ourselves into a spiritual part and a human part, or a spiritual part and a body part, but that we're one. Our spirituality and our body work together all the time, and acknowledging our body, taking care of our body, taking care of our chakra system will help us build resilience.
Absolutely. We can't deny the body's part in it.
Can you say more about how we can help ourselves by paying attention to our body?
We take a look at our diet and what we ingest. Is there enough water? Are there enough minerals? And are you eating enough, or are you ingesting enough protein? Those are the three basics. If you're doing that in a way, which also means taking a look at the flip side of that, or what are you doing that's toxic, that's negating the resilience, that's inflaming the body, that is provoking the organs to have to work harder to keep you balanced. So, there's sugars and alcohols and caffeine and all of those things that we know that inflame the body. So are we doing that, or are we balancing that? For some people, it's not about total abstinence of those things, but it's about a balance, bringing that balance in so that you can have some of what you want, but you're not saturated with it where it's keeping you disconnected, because it will.
Absolutely. It lowers the whole vibration of our
Right.
being, right? How do you think spiritual resilience is connected to our co-creativity?
So we have our own resilience, right, that we talked about. And now spiritual resilience becomes a co-creative process. When you connect to some part of you outside of this physical form, whatever you want to call that, when you connect to that, then you're in a relationship in some way. And it's up to each of us, the consistency of keeping that relationship. What does that mean to have a relationship outside yourself? It's not somebody that you just call up when you're in your hopeless place. You want to develop a trust and a relationship and a truthfulness with that part of you, or with whoever you're bringing in that you've connected with. You want to develop that relationship so that becomes co-creative. Because when you develop the relationship, you also become a receiver for whatever's happening on that level, right? So your synchronicity can increase, your intuition can increase, you get more coming towards you, the law of attraction increases. All of that, you have to open your mind to be able to see it, to utilize it, to grasp it. But that is the co-creative process, is like you're not alone in figuring everything out. you have this other team or part of you or guidance or whatever that is to work with you, to work for you. It's a co-creative process that aligns us to our mission, whatever that might be.
Why do you think this is important now that we have this spiritual resilience and this co-creativity?
Well, we talked about earlier about people that are looking and searching. I think there's more people worldwide that are either more in survival than they ever have been, and they need something that anchors them, that gives them assurance moving forward. And it's being offered to us. The veil of connection is much less, if at all, anymore. We're moving so quickly through this timeline, and so many things are happening. One part of it's evolving and the other part's collapsing, which is a part of evolution, right? You can't have birth without death. Things are moving quickly through all of us. It's important now because the veil is so thin and there's so much need from humanity, searching, need, desire, want, feeling incapable, sometimes feeling hopeless, sometimes that they're looking for what is already out there. It's out there in the field. It's out there in the field that surrounds all of us, which is multidimensionality, which is other beings. We are not alone in this timeline, and they are more there than they ever have been because they can become closer.
That's certainly my experience, that they can come closer, and building the relationship at least feels like they're even closer because I can rely on or look to and have a relationship with. What do you think the tools are for spiritual resilience? If we aren't spiritually resilient, how do we get there? What tools would we use to get there?
Well, the first one would be to quiet your mind. Meditation is a big one. And we've talked about this in the past. It's not just meditation and quieting your mind. That's one form of it, to just get yourself centered. But the next step of meditation is asking questions. Because if you meet somebody, do you just stand there looking at each other? Or do you say, oh, who are you and where do you come from? And that's some form of questions, but you can also ask a question that is important to you and say, show me. Or show me something that I don't know right now. Whatever that dialogue is in the beginning, there's no limits to that you can ask whatever you want and then see what gets given to you, see what you receive. That begins the beginning of it, whether you get that through a felt sense in your body, or you get that through a visual, or you hear something. For some people, it's taste and smell. They may ask a question and they feel like they're in a rose garden. Our senses brings in the relationship. Once that happens and you develop it, that's like the tool. That's the first tool is meditation. And then it's like active meditation.
Sometimes I recommend people just start meditating for 5 minutes, just with the goal to clear their mind, to take control of their mind, to say, oh no, monkey mind, not right now. And then come back to the breath or whatever their focus point is. And if they can get to 5 minutes, then move it to 7. But once you get good at telling the monkey mind to calm down and actually getting it to give you a little space, that's when you can get into the deeper quantum field in my. But that first little piece of meditating makes it so you're successful at being able to go a little deeper and get those answers and have that relationship.
And it's the consistency. That's what the evolves would answer. That's what the council would have answered as part of the evolves. It's the consistency. And I know in my own personal journey with bringing in and communication with multidimensionals, that if I get distracted, I'm leading my life or whatever, there's a missing because I feel different.
Right.
I can feel more tired. I can feel more out of the loop. I like less energy moving through me.
Less resilient?
Less resilient, yeah.
Right.
But when I go and I connect with them and I bring in what feels like to me new energy or new information, it's
Right.
very enlightening. It lightens me. when I was writing the books. Like I couldn't wait to get to the computer and start writing everything. And it was energizing because
Right.
I was in that loop of saying, oh, I don't know what's going to happen next. I really want to find what's going to happen next. It's the same thing that happens in this spiritual resilience and connection, is that when you develop this relationship, you're always excited or intrigued or curious about what they're going to show you.
Just like a best friend, but particularly a new best friend. Like what am I going to learn next about this person? There's a looking forward to being together.
Yeah, it creates an endorphin rush.
And it feeds on itself so that it continually nurtures us.
Yes.
How do you think we can come into our spiritual resilience every day? Is it just meditating every day? Is there a
And that's a
rule?
piece of it. I think you wake up in the morning, and if you can be grateful, and if you can go to bed grateful for something that happened that day, or who you are, or who you met, or one thing, just one thing, and if you had more than that, that's wonderful. But it raises the vibration in us naturally.
Right.
It changes things for us, as opposed to the negative of, gee, I wish I had this, the lack, or I'm not enough, or it's not enough, or it'll never be enough. Just saying the words feels like the vibration goes down. So when you want spiritual resilience, it's more about the lightening up of what's possible in gratitude, in appreciation, in love. Think of something that you loved, not in the loss of it, if there was one, but in the felt sense of what that felt like in your physical body. What did your heart feel like with that? It's a way of keeping us on the higher level, because we are so saturated in our environment with what is negative. It's hard to get away from that. Going out in nature is another way, not with anything in your ears and not listening to podcasts, but to do something where you're really communing with nature is a way of creating spiritual resilience.
Do you have anything else you'd like to talk about spiritual resilience?
What the evals would say is that it's something that we all need to consider, and it's something that we all need to in some way address in our lives at whatever level we're capable of doing that. For some people, it's prayer. That's fine. It's a connection, right?
Right.
What they would also say is, don't forget to pray for yourself. It is not selfish to pray for yourself, to ask for something. The other thing that they would offer is the field around us is so rich with possibilities that what we would call, what they had called in the past, seeding the field, is that when you take your intention of whatever you're going through and you put that out into the field with just, this is what I intend, this is what I need in this moment, and you just put it there. You don't look at how it's going to come back. You don't you don't confine it in what you need it to come back as. You just put it in there in that need. It goes into the field, and then the universe provides. It's all in good universal time, right? Provides in that way. Sometimes it's years. Like for me, I know that, I thought that I'd be doing this at 50, and I'm not, right? Because I wasn't ready. But I remember putting that information out, that was a knowing, that was a desire, that was something needed to happen with what I was doing, but I didn't know what or how. Or at that point, wanting to be visible was not on my radar. All of that had to move, but I seeded the field. That's what I would call it now. I seeded the field, and now it's coming back some 18 years later. You can't depend on it. Oh, I seeded that 3 days ago and I didn't get anything, right? It's seeding that with your intention and then just waiting. Because what that'll teach us is patience, amongst other things, allowance and acceptance and patience.
And there's something to be said about settling into the knowing and relaxing and not being upset that it didn't happen when you were 50, but just being okay with the process, trusting the intention and the work of the field. That's part of spiritual resilience.
For me, it was settling into my life a lot more, where my kids were older, the relationship was secure. Like I needed that for this physical form to be able to relax more and go, okay, I'm not in trauma and drama, I'm not in survival. I now have time.
Right. The lack of drama is a big help once the teenagers have passed through to another
And then when they
stage of-
come back, for certain parents, they come back because of the times we're living in, right? So you end up with an extended family in your household.
It's true. That's true. But it's not the same as when they were in it every single day. We were in it with them every single day. It's
Holding
different.
the space, whatever that took. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's everything that I've got today. I'd like to make some announcements. We have this Cosmic Traveler session. It's a live event on the third Sunday of each month. During this session, participants actively participate in a guided interactive meditation directly with the evolves. You can contact Darlene through soulunion.com for payment instructions and for the link to attend. The Cosmic Travelers have a Facebook page. You can search for that in Facebook under groups. Please submit your questions. I bet you have them. We want them. Send us your questions. We would like to answer them. Also, we now have a YouTube. Darlene Vandergrift can be searched for on YouTube, and K. Melissa Waterman can be searched for on YouTube. And you can reach Darlene for sessions and questions at soulunion.com. And you can reach me, K. Melissa Waterman, at livingwellbeing.net. Have a great day.
And remember, you know more than you know.